Okay. Oh, wow, not my neck. What's going on? All right. Hey, Michi. Yeah, well, one of the questions that I had was, to me, this looks like 3 lines. No, I guess that's 1, 2. Yeah, to me, this looks like 3 lines, not 4.
It's because the 4th line is supposed to be blank, but I think they got that wrong.
Oh, the 4th line is blank. Got it. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, what ideas did people have? Let's not get into code just yet. Let's talk about ideas. What ideas do people have?
I guess the regex of showing 0 to 9 characters, the pipes and underscores, and then the blank space.
And then the blank space. Okay. And how would regex fit in with this?
Honestly, I didn't know any other way to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't even complete it, but I was just kind of taking my pseudo.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe what you're looking at is parsing this, like getting presented with this and parsing it. Actually, what we're going to be doing is we want to actually produce it. Although it is also a very interesting question to be presented with this and determine what the numbers are. But we're going to be going the opposite direction.
Okay, yeah.
But for people who want further challenge, going from this to numbers, also a good one. Yeah.
I approached it by making 3 empty arrays.
Okay. All right. 3 empty arrays.
And then using a switch statement.
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm not sharing my screen. Someday I'll get all of this. Okay. So 3 empty arrays. Let me get, forgive me, hold on, I'm not set up. Okay. And I'll save this as bank numbers. Okay. So, so 3 empty arrays. Switch statement.
Yeah, so like I basically like took the number and split it into a string. Or I did 2 string and then I split it into an array, sorry. And then I iterated through the array with the switch statement and then just pushed the underscores and bars into the arrays. So that basically every time it would match a number in the switch statement, it would push an underscore, like underscores and bars into one of each of the arrays.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then I console logged all of the arrays joined together.
Cool. All right, and then all right, what other approaches do people take?
Just the exact same thing, I think, but with strings instead of arrays.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Oh, Celeste, dare to be different. Okay.
I made a 2-dimensional array that has, so it has 3 arrays in it, and each array corresponds to either the top, the middle, or the bottom, and then like 0 is the 0 and 1, they're 0 through 9. And then I used some loops. I used a for loop to go through each number that was passed in, or each, convert it to a string, and then use a for loop to go through each digit. And then, let's see, I had an array of 3 empty strings, and I pushed to that with each time, and then at the end I printed them all out.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think I'm following. I think I think I'm following. But okay, so instead of doing a switch statement, you're gonna access your data from arrays, right? So I think that the major difference between this approach and this approach is how you determine what to add to your strings, what to add to your output strings. So for this approach, you're determining what to add to your output strings through the switch statement. And for this approach, you're determining what to add to your output strings through the array indices, right? So we can take a look at what the code looks like for each of these, but does anybody have anything else that they were working on? Okay. Allie, did you get to the point where you were writing code? You want to dictate your code to me?
So, well, first I declared the three empty arrays.
Okay. What'd you call them?
Row 1, row 2, and row 3.
Is const a good idea here?
Sure.
Yeah.
Why? We're going to be changing them, right?
We're not changing the array. Like we did this yesterday.
I know. And how did I phrase it? Or what's a way to phrase it?
Methods on it, and we're not actually changing what the array is.
No, we're not changing the memory location. We are never going to say row 1 equals again. You're allowed to do const if you're never going to say the variable name equals again. Yeah.
So if you reassign it, that would be.
Then you're going to get an error because it's supposed to be constant. That, by the way, is something that I learned from Jeffrey Westcott in my interview for this job. There's a lot you can learn during interviews if you're working with people, and then people love it when you learn something and you're like, oh, I didn't know that. That's so cool, Okay, so all right. Then what, Allie?
And then the next thing I did was to I declared a variable called split numbers.
Const or let?
I used let, but I only used methods on it. I never reassigned it.
So let's try const. Okay. Equals
number dot toString dot split.
And I'm going to say this is a number string. And the reason I'm going to say that is it is impossible to pass in 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 like this without it being a string.
Well, I assumed it was integers, so all of my code assumes that.
Okay, that's fine. I think the only part is that, okay, so let's just do number string. So we're not going to do toString. And then
so I split it with an empty string.
What's the data type that this outputs? An array. Okay, then what?
And then I took my new array, split numbers, and I did for each. And then there's a callback inside. Then my switch statement was nested inside there with the number.
And I always get the, do I have to put a parentheses here?
And then curly braces.
Right, curly braces, and then case 0.
And then
okay.
This is really tedious. Then it's row 1 push, a string that's space underscore space. It's
right.
Yeah. So
got it. Okay. So etc. We won't actually do this whole thing.
And then after the switch statement, I console logged each row with so it's console log row 1 dot join with an empty string.
Okay. What comes out of row 1 dot join? What data type?
A string.
A string. Good. Okay. And then same thing for
row 2.
Cool. You guys have questions on that? Yeah, Kelsey?
I wanted to use for each in mind because
it's the more modern JavaScript way.
But I was looking it up and it just seems like everything said you have to do it on an array. And so
so you couldn't do it on the string.
yeah, but it looks like I could do it on
I split it into an array.
This
before
is
I
an
used
array.
it.
Oh, no, you're right. So I said split numbers equals number string dot split, right? So number string is what was input. I split it, and now I am doing it on an array here.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's why you do a join at the end, because join takes the array and turns it back into a string.
Other questions on this? What's the runtime of this?
Oh, then.
Why?
Oh, then it's squared.
Because it's constant.
Because what's
It's a loop.
constant?
Because it's a loop.
Because it's a loop. Okay, so certainly we're going to go through this loop n times, where n is. That's another thing. When you're talking about runtime, you have to make sure you specify what n is. So O of n when n is what?
The length of
Number of loops.
the array.
Yeah, it's the number of loops you're going to do. It's the length of the array. And how does that relate to our input?
That's the length. That's the data.
Yeah,
The length of the string.
the length of the string. Okay, so we're going to go through this loop n times, where n is the length of the string. And are we doing a constant number of operations in this loop, or does the number of operations we do within the loop depend on the length of the string?
It depends on the length of the string.
Why?
Because you push to the array the length of the string times.
Because if you don't get the right length, it will not move on to the next one.
Tell me more what you mean by that, I mean.
Well, when you have for each, it will go exactly the right length. If it's not, well, we need to get the right length so we can move on to the next row.
It loops for the length of the array.
Yeah, so we've established that it's going to do whatever is inside here n times. And the question is, does this, whatever's inside here, does that depend on the number or on the length of the array?
No,
Why not?
because whether you have one thing in your array or 10 things in your array, with the switch statement, you're just going to do the same thing no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah.
The switch statement isn't looping. It's just a single statement.
Yeah, and I like the way you're thinking about it. Whether you have one thing in the array or whether you have a 10 million number array, looking at any given character, it's not like we're comparing that characters against all the other characters in the array. We're just looking at that character, deciding whether it is a 0, 1, 2, and then we're doing a push. And push is a constant operation. It doesn't matter what the length of the array is. Push does not depend on the length of the array. Push is an O of one constellation. O of one operation. So everything is constant inside here. So we're doing a constant number of things this number of times. How about this? So this block is O of n. What about this block or this line 21?
Constant O of 1.
Why?
Because you are doing one thing no matter what.
Does it matter how much data we gave it?
No.
Anybody want to argue with Celeste? I mean, with Brittany?
No.
I know Celeste does, which is why I saw Celeste twist her mouth.
I'm just looking up join because I don't know the answer.
Let's think about it. Just think about it. You have a 2-character array and you join it. You have a 3 million character array and you join it. Does it matter the length of the array? just
One-
instinctively.
Yeah, it was join it
Yes.
anyway.
No, it matters.
It doesn't matter.
It matters. It matters.
So you think that a computer could take two elements and join it into a string in the same number of time it could take 300 million elements and join
Actually-
them into a string?
I mean, yeah, join is going to.
If you think yes, back it up. Or if you think no, back it up.
Like if there were 10 whatevers here
Mhm.
and they had to join, it's one move.
It is one movement. However, the computer doesn't just get to go like this, right? The computer actually does have to look at every element in the array and put it into the string. So this actually is O of n, where n is the length of the array. How does this length of the array compare to this number string? Is it independent? Is it constant? Or does it depend on the number string? It does depend on the number string because the array is going to be longer the more numbers you have. So O of n, O of n, O of n. And so now we've got like 4 O of n, which is just O of n.
I'm confused. What if it didn't depend? What would the O of what be?
If it didn't depend on, if this took the same amount of time, so let's say instead of that, this was console right? Does that depend on the number or on the length of the number string? No. So it's constant, O of 1.
Okay. So, but those O of n's are going to be longer depending on the length of the string. So
This-
it does affect the
It
time.
depends on it, but it doesn't matter how much longer it is.
What do you mean by that, Brittany?
Well, so in like on line 17, where you say like row 1 push whatever,
Mm-hmm.
row 1, if you did that for every item in the string or the split numbers array, the length of it would ultimately be much longer than the actual split numbers array because you're putting.
Oh, it's, yeah, because you're putting basically 3 characters in there.
instead of one.
But you're multiplying it by a constant. You're not putting n characters in for each one of your numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Runtime. It's a little slippery. I'm just hoping the more experience we have with it, like the more it'll sink in.
No, since like the first time you mentioned it, it's making way more sense to me.
That's great.
Hearing it.
Just a little bit more sense every time. That's all we need. Okay. Celeste, do you want to tell us about your code? Okay, so I'm going to call this okay.
So the first thing I did was make this big old array with 3 arrays in it that represent all the numbers.
What'd you call it?
Translate.
Okay. Okay. And so,
And it has like all the dashes and pipes.
oh, okay. So it has,
So the first array in this array
is like,
is like
that's for 0.
yes, exactly, and then 3 spaces for 1. And
That's
then-
for 1. And then, I don't know, 2 is like this or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the second array in that array is the same thing, but with a little line. And you said we can assume the input is a string, I guess.
Yes.
And then I made an array with 3 empty strings in it, that I called answer.
Okay.
And then for let I equal 0, I is less than number string, not length. I plus plus.
Okay.
Let current num equal parse int number string I,
Why do you have to parse int?
because it's a string and not a number, but I want the number to access the array.
Guess what? You don't. Just to give you a little. So if I have, let's see. So it's an array, right? Or it's a string. So if I say,
Cool.
you don't. Just to, so not necessary.
Great. And then inside the loop, I said answer dot for each element index. Sorry, I'm passing in both the element and the index into for each.
Okay.
And then answer index
You say answer at index. That's how you you say that out loud. Answer at index.
plus equals translate at index at current number.
Ah, okay. So we're saying that I'm taking the answer at index, and so you're doing an answer for each because you want to do this 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to do, it's going to be translate at index. So you're going to pick the top, middle, or top, middle, or bottom one. And then in the internal array, or in the nested array, you're going to choose the current number. Okay. What's the runtime of this?
I think it's also O of n,
Why?
because even though there's 2 loops, the inside loop just does it 3 times. For everything.
Ah, usually when you see nested loops, you're like, O of n squared. But this loop we do n times, and this loop we do 3 times. This one's constant. We do that 3 times no matter how many numbers we have, or how many, how long the string is. This is constant. Indexing an array is constant, or an object, getting a key from an object. I'm actually not sure whether this is constant or not. Appending to a string, because strings are immutable, appending to a string might be O of n. I'm actually not sure. If that is, then this would be n squared. The way to get around that would be making these arrays, because I know that appending to an array is constant, and then just joining them at the bottom, like Allie did. I'm not sure. We'll have to look at that. Yeah.
Well, it's using the index of translate and index of translate would change based on number string, right?
Tell me more what you mean by that.
Well, when we talk about it being dependent on the input, right? If it's iterating through translate, then translate is
But here we're not iterating.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, and we're not iterating through translate. We're actually just getting something at a particular index, which is always constant. Doesn't matter the length of the array. Getting something at a particular index is constant. We're getting something at another particular constant. Doesn't matter length of the array. But I think that it might be because you have to actually create a new string and save it, because strings are immutable. I think that this might be O of n. So I think that you might have to do this with, if you want to keep it n and not n squared, I think that you might have to do this using arrays. I'm not positive about that. Something we can look up. Okay. And then obviously you would print stuff out here. Okay. All right, cool. My only comment on yours, Celeste, is that there's really no reason to do this, right? I would just say number string dot for each. Can you do a dot for each on a string? Maybe you can't. Oh, okay. Well, then you have to do this. Okay. All right. In Python, you can iterate over strings in the same way you can for arrays, but clearly not here. I have trained you well. Okay. All right, cool. I will put this and the video and whatever in the GitHub repo. Were people looking at the GitHub repo for this? I posted the GitHub repo where I have all of these solutions yesterday. So in case you ever want to look at the solutions, I'll pin that link to the GitHub repos in the Slack, so you can always just look at the pinned posts if you want to see it. Okay. Everybody go sit next to your partner, please, for today's coding. Marquise, you're going to be partnering with Celeste.
My partner has one out.
Okay. I mean, are you partnering with Obo? Okay. And Misha, you said you weren't going to be here today, so that you were. Okay. All right. Great. So, okay. All right. So, decide with your partner whether you want to work on puppies or mixed drinks, and go to it. I'll see you guys at 4:45. 4:45, submit your repo, and at 5 o'clock, we'll talk about it.